I think I'm more interested in the present and how our present is like somehow um, a continuation of all these pasts, and every second we are building a new past. So I'm interested in how theater is all about the presence of somebody on stage today, now, and how this person is carrying a history, a background, a story behind. So what I try to do with theater is try to create this space in theater where people can reenact, go back to this past, in a way like using theater as a kind of time machine, a teletransportation machine, where you can be here now, today, in this theater, looking at this audience, but you can like suddenly go back to 1982, the Falklands War, 1976, Malvinas, Argentine dictatorship, whatever. No? You can use this space as a space of reenacting this past.
You seem to move very quickly in your theater and in your art from one place to the other, from one time to the other, melting them. What do you obtain with this mixture? What is the very deep aim of melting so many times and places?
There is no aim. I mean, I think the fact that we are like time is an illusion, of course, and we all have the feeling that we are living in a kind of present and that there is a past and there is a future, but this is an illusion. Sometimes I close my eyes and I'm again a 2-year-old child, and I close my eyes and I'm an old lady, like just trying to grab a spoon with the hand. You know, all our life is happening right now. So I think the kind of performance I'm looking for is this performance that opens this illusion of time to the spectator, to open the possibility to travel in time, which we naturally do all the time in our minds.
You are a polymorphic, let's say so, artist. How do you choose each art to express what? What is the difference between music, cinema, theater?
I started as a writer, and I would say writing is the first thing I always did. Since I was a child, I was writing stories and poems. So I think every artistic work I did started from something that was written at some point. So I think it's different ways to express this writing. In a way, we could develop into a visual form, into a video installation, or a film, or a theater performance, or a song. But it's all coming from the fact that I always experienced the world through writing. I wrote about my surrounding, but about my fears, about the stories I heard, and this was transformed afterwards in different other forms.
It seems that your art starts always from a wounding, a pain, a sufferance.
I don't know if my work starts from suffering. I wouldn't call it like this, and maybe people would get like a strange idea about my work, which is my work has a lot of humor in it. So I think the point is that maybe I'm not so afraid of pain. I'm not so afraid of what it means to share pain. You know, like in the projects I did, people are sharing painful stories. veterans of the Malvinas Falklands War are sharing their painful stories. People who were born in the 70s are sharing their family stories, which are sometimes very painful because they lost their parents who were killed by the guerrilla. So I would say that I'm not afraid of pain, like of the possibility of transforming this pain into something else, of the fact that when we share the pain, it becomes something different.
Because I think that our world is getting more and more afraid of pains, of suffering, something which cannot be identified many times. Also, the global communication is always stressing fears, possible pains, possible suffering, instead of taking care of real pains, real suffering. So
yeah, I'm thinking more and more how performance art, the fact of like sharing a space and time together becomes more and more important when we are more and more isolated into our own rooms, into our own telephones, into our own digital world. So I realize more and more how important it is to have spaces where people can actually be there with others. And the theater is one of those places, not only because of the rehearsal time where you're like sharing time together with a group of people, but also the performance in itself. The fact that a performance is not able to exist if there is no audience and people performing there, and that this is somehow a privilege, that we are still keeping this ritual alive. And I think this ritual has to mean something different now in the times where we are living, like a different kind of encounter.
You were talking about rituals. Also, rituals in our time are sort of changing, losing their importance. Most of them were religion-based. Most of them were political rituals, with people meeting each other in the streets, in places, while this is disappearing. How do you think it's possible now to found a new mass culture, a new widespread knowledge of and consistent consciousness of the present?
I don't think we need mass culture events, or I think we need to keep alive these small places where people can find a small community. The bar in the corner, the theater of the neighborhood, the cultural center where they do activities with the kids. Like, it's these spaces of sharing and getting together that are becoming so important. Like these small local spaces of gathering are becoming more and more important when everything that is related to culture is getting more into festivals, into like big mass events. And in fact, we have to make stronger these community spaces that exist in the city, these places where people can meet, where political discussions and artistic discussions can be held.
So you prefer 100 small fires than a great big fire?
Yes, I don't know. I mean, I'm doing projects which are really long projects with a small group of people, very intense, very like deep, sometimes even exhausting, because I had been working, for example, with this group of veterans of the Malvinas Falklands War for 5 years, and we did different projects together. We did a video installation, then we did a theater play, then we did a film.
Yes.
And all this research time, the time we share, is so important. And it's with these 6 people. I'm not sharing with the whole world, but this time that we spend together, the relationship, the creation of this temporary community of artists and veterans people who never meet, like people from the military and people from the artistic world, they would never meet if it wasn't because of this project. So that's the things I believe in, these kind of temporary communities, social experiments that had a deep and long-term commitment.
But this long-term commitment, anyway, you were lucky to have the possibility to put it in place, because I think that art has a shortage of time and a shortage of money. How do you think someone who wants to make art in our days can face this problem, and what are the arms that people can use to...
Yeah, I don't believe it's, I think it's also a question of how you want to spend the money you have. You know what I mean? It's not only like about the shortage of money, which is a big deal in culture and in many other, in social welfare. But it's also when you have the money, how do you want to use it and for what? When you're an artist, it's a big decision. Where do you invest the money? In the people, in the salaries, or do you invest it in the set, in the big thing? So I think it's also, all these decisions are political decisions as an artist. How to use the money, where to use it. I generally invest, like when I have money for a project, I invest it in the people that are working with me. That's where all the money goes.
What does essential mean to you? What is essential?
I think in Veterans, the video installation that I'm showing in Studio K, the central story, what I wanted really to show was what is a flashback. So the question was how this past interrupts the present suddenly, and especially in the cases of people who have post-traumatic stress disorder, these flashbacks are something that is coming back once and again. So there is suddenly the presence of a past situation that interrupts their everyday life, and they cannot stop it. And in cinema, always flashback is represented with a scene that happens somewhere else with other actors in another set. And in this case, the most important thing for me to show was that in fact this coexistence of this past and the present in the places where they live and they work today. And also the fact that these 5 veterans that are shown in the video installation are people who have very different lives today. So one is an opera singer, one is a psychiatrist, the other one is a mechanic. So they had really very different lives. So that shows that everybody could be a veteran of the Malvinas War in Argentina. The doctor you're going, the mechanic that is repairing your car.
When did you first enter a theater?
When did I first enter a theater? No idea. I think when I was a child, but I don't remember it. I remember the first time I performed because I was in kindergarten and I was doing the witch of Snow White. And they chose me because I had no teeth in the front. So I had to perform the witch, which I didn't like at all because there was a beautiful girl playing Snow White. And I ate the apple, which means I ate the poison before going on stage. So when I had to go on stage, I didn't have the apple to give it to the beautiful Snow White, so I had to pretend I had something in my hand. That's my first memory about theater.
And why did you therefore wanted to perform? It's more to delay this memory, this unpleasant memory.
I don't know. I don't know if I wanted so much to perform. I wanted to write. I wanted to write my own stories. I wanted to. It was really like the connection with theater comes from writing. First of all, I wanted to write. I wanted to be a writer, and then I thought, okay, I want to write and put on stage these ideas, these thoughts, these images. Yeah, writing means transforming an experience into words and working with words, and writing means being able to hear, being able to observe, being able to transform these experiences into something different. Yes.
Is there something that, in your opinion, the theater and the art cannot represent?
I mean, there are many things that the theater and the art cannot represent. You cannot represent death, you cannot represent war. I mean, in fact, you cannot represent them. Most of the things we think we are representing in theater, we are not representing them, we are just evoking them. We are like with conventions, we try to bring them somehow back. But yes, most of life it's impossible to represent on stage.
Do you talk about yourself in your creations? Because you ask people to talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
And,
but I'm sorry.
And so how do you talk about yourself through this?
Because everything I did was written by me, so it's my version of their stories. It's not their stories. It's my version of their stories. I think there is a kind of illusion in the documentary that people don't realize that there is a writer behind, that there is a filmmaker behind. They think, oh, this just happened. And there is nothing really happening in the work I do. There is nothing really totally spontaneous. It's like everything was prepared and rehearsed and written. And so I am in everything.
But people looking at believes in truth.
I don't know if they believe in truth. I mean, there is a sense of authenticity, of that people are looking for, like, oh, this is a real veteran of the war telling his story, or, of course, this is completely different as a relationship, for example, with an actor. But nevertheless, they know there is a work that has been done to achieve that. But of course, there is the illusion that this is happening and it's just there.
It can be also dangerous as an instrument.
For whom? Dangerous for whom?
For example, for an athlete, overlying all this process, there is honesty. If you didn't trust in your own honesty, that would be a dangerous way of making art, because you would manipulate stories.
There is manipulation. Of course there is manipulation in everything, because manipulation means like taking a material and transform it into something. So there is always this issue about manipulation in documentary work, scene, film, art, theater. But of course there is manipulation, because if there were no manipulation, there will be no transformation of a material. So manipulation is not a bad word for me. But of course these projects, they demand a commitment from yourself as an artist with the people that you're working with. That it's a complete different commitment than the commitment you have with an actor that you're calling to play a role.
What would it be?
There is always this question. I never know how to answer it, because I'm not looking for a specific thing, I'm not, like, people ask you, like, what do you want the people to take with them when they come to see your show? Whatever, I don't know. I'm making an artwork, which is an open artwork, and everybody can take whatever they want, and it will create, and the most different reactions and perceptions and emotions it creates, the better the artwork would be.
You never think about who will look at that result during the creation.
Of course I think about who will look at it, but I don't think about, I want to achieve this, you know what I mean? I want to get this. I'm doing this artwork, and it can produce many emotions and thoughts and ideas, and I can't control it, I don't want to. No, I never had it. Yes.
You've never worried about, not even the first time, the
No,
beginning.
it's not that I'm not worried. I'm thinking about what people will think. I'm hearing a lot. I'm always interested in hearing what people say about the work. I'm always meeting people and I want to hear what they think and their associations and how it reflects, but I don't want to control it. This is completely different. It's not that I'm not interested, it's not that I'm not thinking about it, but I don't want to say this is the only way to interpret this artwork.
What is art? Does it make you happy?
Sometimes yes, sometimes not, like everything.